let's get into the habit of being organized, like early, during, and after, all the time. So knowing that this is the first screen, and I'm seeing that we already got like 5 or 6 elements, and I know that we're gonna have like 1, 2, 3, 4 or 4 screens at least, and for every one of those there is gonna be some logic. So I want to get organized early and create a subflow where we have these 3 elements perhaps, or 4 elements into one subflow that does one thing. So we're gonna grab, get all the elements that are doing one thing, put them into one subflow. So I know that these 3 elements are there to get the households. The outcome of these 3 are to get the households. So I'm gonna take these 3 and create a subflow for them. Okay, so I'm gonna save this as a new flow, and I'll say that's and I'll change the type to auto launched. That's a screen flow. I'm sorry, that's a subflow, and I'll name this subflow get households. So this is what that subflow is doing. It's just grabbing the households. Let's save this. Okay, now we're gonna delete this screen because it's no longer a screen. One thing that happens in a subflow when you do that is that you can select it to click delete, but you can always find it in the resources here, that actual screen, select household screen. So I can click this arrow and then delete it. All right, let's see what other problems we have. The screen we deleted, the data table was on the screen, so we're gonna be fine there. If we save, maybe it's gonna let us save now. Okay, I don't need the assign user ID. I'll do this on the main or the master flow. We need this to be only getting the relationship group and the households. Are we gonna need any information from the parent? As a matter of fact, yes. That is, we need the households that are owned by the running user only. And if you are running this without with sharing, meaning we haven't changed the how the flow run to be in system context, then only the accounts that are shared with the running user will actually be returned. But in case we only want this to return the accounts that are owned only by the running user, then we can add the owner ID to be equal to the running user ID. And because we have already stored the running user ID on the parent flow, so we need to send that user ID from the parent flow to the child. To do that, I'm going to create a new resource. That's a text variable user ID. There is already one that we actually had, so we're gonna click that and make it available for input. So this is the text variable that's going to receive the user ID from the parent, and I'll add it in here. This text variable receives the user ID from the parent, and then we're grabbing all the accounts where the owner ID equals this user ID, in addition to the other condition as well. All right, let's save this and activate that. I'll just copy the name from here. I'll go back to the list view, refresh this, go back to intake form 3. Let's close this subflow now. And now, after the assign user ID, I will use this subflow. I'm doing it after the assign because I need the user ID. So this is get households, and the get household subflow is expecting the user ID, the one that we just assigned earlier. So that's the same. It's gonna have the same name. Now they have the same name, but remember, these are two different things. The one here, this is the variable in the subflow that's going to receive the value that we are sending from the parent flow. And what value are we sending from the parent flow? It's this one, text variable user ID. And this text variable user ID here, the value that we are sending, we are grabbing this one from the running user ID. Now that we are using the Subflow get households, we don't need these three anymore. I'm gonna delete them from the bottom because they depend on each other. Okay, good. Now you notice something here. When I attempted to delete this, it is being referenced in the data table. So we need this data table to reference the households that we got in the Subflow instead. So let's actually reopen that Subflow. And we're gonna need to send the households from the Subflow to the parent. To do that, I'm gonna go to this get household accounts, and you can do this in one of two ways. It's either I'm gonna create a new variable that I'm going to send over. You can just send the get itself to the parent, but you need to take the output of the get element, store it in a variable, and take that variable and send it to the parent. So I'm gonna create a new variable here, and that's a record collection variable underscore households. And that's a record collection of the object account. And it is a collection, so I'm gonna tick this. And because we're sending it out of this flow, I am going to select the available for output. And down here, after get household accounts, we're gonna use an assignment element. We're gonna say assign households. And what we're doing is, let me do it first and then we talk about that. We're taking the list of accounts that we got from the get household accounts and we are storing them into this record variable. This record variable is available for outputs. We can reference it outside. We're going to see how we can do that in a minute. Another way to do this, which can save us one step, is to go back to get household accounts. And then down here, we're going to select choose fields and assign variables advanced. When we do that, we're basically saying the accounts that we retrieved automatically from the get households, the accounts that we retrieved, and instead of automatically storing them in a variable, let me select the variable to store them in. Let me just backstep for a second. I want you to look here on the left side under the resources panel and see what happens when we select choose fields and let Salesforce do the rest. You would notice that something gets created automatically. If we do that, you notice this here got added automatically. Accounts from get household accounts. So every get element automatically creates a record variable if it is only a single variable. If you are selecting all records, it's automatically creating a collection variable here. But the problem here, if I click that, it only opens the get element. It doesn't give me the option to mark it available for output. But if I select choose fields and assign variables advanced, you would notice this account is going to disappear. Now the accounts that are returned, Salesforce is asking me, the flow is asking me, where do you want to store these accounts? In this case, we're going to select the collection that we specified, that we created earlier, and then which fields are we storing in this. Now this section here is the same one that we had earlier. The additional step is that we're just storing this in this variable. So we're saying take the accounts from this get, put them into this variable, and then return these fields, and that's it. With that, we don't need this assignment anymore. And let's save this as a new version because we previously activated this. And now let's activate the new version. Let's go back to the master flow. I'm going to refresh this because the child got updated. Okay, I'll just have to do that again. Subflow get households. Now you would notice something here. We have this manually assigned variables because there are outputs. If I click that, it shows record collection variable households. We can get these. So after this Subflow gets called and it ends the logic in there, it returns this record collection variable households. We don't have to do that, so I'll just deselect this and show you how to reference this in other places. We're saying get households and we're sending the text variable user ID, and now we need that list of households that we are returning from that Subflow to show up into that data table instead of the ones from get. So I'm gonna close this. And you can use the keyword outputs, or you see down here we have a section for subflows. You can search for outputs to show you the outputs from any subflow. And then here we have outputs from get households. So if I click that, it's going to show me anything that we market as available for output in the subflow. So we have these households. I'll click outside. Everything else is still configured as is. Now we can click done and we can go ahead and delete this. Much more organized now.